Stop me if you've heard this one before. Disney takes a well-loved Lucasfilm property and does a sequel to it and modernizes it and does their own thing with it. What could possibly go wrong? Well, I'll tell you what went wrong here in the next few minutes. But before we get to the video, remember to go into the description and click on the link for a free ebook if you like fantasy. And remember to subscribe to this channel so you get more great content. All right, let's do it. Welcome back to Great Stories Change the World. This is the YouTube channel where you've got a fantasy science fiction author, me, and I go over movies, TV shows, books, and we look at things and analyze things according to writing, because I do believe that great stories change the world, and I want to help us tell great stories for that reason. We have a world that needs changing, right? So today we're going to be looking at Willow. Now, this was a movie back in 1988, and now it's a TV show that's on Disney, and the first 2 episodes dropped on Wednesday, and here's my review. Now, here's a little warning. This is going to be spoiler-filled, or at least there'll be some spoilers as we go through it on these first 2 episodes. So if you haven't watched it yet and you don't want any spoilers, stop now and then come back, all right, and see what I have to say about it. Now, in 1988, like I said before, the movie Willow came out, and this is from George Lucas. Now, we all know where George Lucas came from, right? Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, all of that stuff. And he started to do some things on TV shows like Droids, and he did a couple TV movies with the Ewoks. So he was trying to make some movies and get out there, where Willow is kind of a part of all that. And Willow came out in 1988, and of course it stars Warwick Davis, who was one of the Ewoks. Like, he was kind of the main Ewok in Return of the Jedi. And I guess maybe he and Lucas kind of really got along. If you look at some of the background and some of the documentaries on Return of the Jedi, it kind of shows how Lucas and Warwick Davis really sort of hit it off, because Warwick Davis was young. Well, now he's a little older, right? So it's 1988, and it's kind of weird because he looks young in the original movie in 1988, but he's kind of plays a guy who has a couple kids and he's married. But all that to say is this movie was fantasy instead of science fiction, and it's really kind of classic fantasy. It's got some great characters. You've got Joanne Whalley, who plays Sorsha, who's like supposed to be like a villain, but you know, her character changes. You've got Mad Mardigan, played by Val Kilmer, one of his best roles for sure, right? He did such a great job with that. And then of course his character changes, and you have Willow by Warwick Davis, right? Where he plays this sorcerer wannabe, and yet he gets the baby, and he's got to try to deliver the baby safely. It's the Empress and all this stuff, and shenanigans ensue, right? And so, you know, the special effects are okay. They're pretty good for its time, but looking back, they're a little dated. It's still a great and engaging movie. And for those of us who were around in that time, we loved George Lucas and Star Wars. We loved Willow. It's still a very well-loved movie by a lot of people. So there's this huge nostalgic element. So Disney decides to do a sequel, like they do. After they bought Lucasfilm, they have, you know, the rights to all of those properties, which includes Indiana Jones, which is coming out like next summer, I think, right? So they have all the rights to all this stuff. So they decide they're going to use it. They're going to make money off of it, like they did with Star Wars. Now, you know, just as a quick aside, I wasn't super crazy about the sequels. A couple of the live action shows have been good, and some of the things have been okay. I love The Mandalorian. Andor was really good. A couple of the other ones are, they're okay. So, but here they decided to do it again. Now, I got my hopes up because I thought, what a great idea. We kind of revisit Willow, revisit the Empress, you know, what's going on, how did everything kind of shake out afterwards. And so I kind of got my hopes up. And silly me, I should have known better after, you know, Disney did what they did with definitely the sequels, and to some degree, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Boba Fett, and some of that stuff is just to make money. It's not to be great story necessarily. And you kind of see some of that. Some of it's great. Like I said, Mandalorian and Andor. But so with Willow, I watched the 2 episodes and I was just really disappointed in a lot of ways. And so I'm going to talk about 5 ways that I was disappointed with Willow based on the first 2 episodes. All right. So reason number 1, what are the stakes here? You've got a lot of really confusing sort of goals with each character, and that's not necessarily bad. But when we're dealing with like, what are the stakes of the show? So essentially, you've got some characters. So Mad Mardigan and Sorsha get married, and they've got some twins, and Mad Mardigan is gone because Val Kilmer can't, perform like he should be able to if he's going to be a part of this. So that's very sad. So they kind of give you a reason, or they just kind of don't really super explain it, but they kind of get there a little bit in episode 2, which is another problem. But what are the stakes here, right? So these twins, you've got Eric and Kit are the twins, a boy and a girl, and he gets kidnapped. In the first episode, spoiler, right? He gets kidnapped, and so they decide to go get they decided to go get him, but they got to go beyond this magical barrier and go try to find him. And but along the way, they start talking about saving the world, and it's good versus evil, and there's evil coming, and I'm like, well, what are the stakes here? Are we trying to get the brother? Are we trying to, are we fighting a thing of good versus evil? And then they throw in a whole other thing about this like armor that Mad Mardigan was looking for, and this is a goal now, kind of too. It just got really kind of convoluted, and they're just trying to get these people on a quest. That's really what they're trying to do. So story reasons, and it's just lazy story. Okay, it's lazy writing. Because you're not giving me any sort of real stakes that make me really care, and you didn't really establish much of a relationship with Kit and her brother, and you can do that in a short period of time, but they didn't. Okay, so first of all, the stakes. The stakes are kind of vague, and then they just sort of add things along the way that are like, oh, there's this sea that no one's ever crossed. So there's just kind of a lot of stuff in there that they just kind of throw in there because they want to put all these people on a quest, all right? There's some other plot issues. So Kit and Eric are the prince and princess, right? And Sorsha is the queen, and they kidnap one of the royal family. So guess who the only future is of the kingdom? Is Kit, all right? But then at the same time, Kit was supposed to be marrying this prince from like the only other good kingdom that they were allies with. And so that prince, they weren't really happy about it. And there's romance issues and stuff going on. And she wants to be her own person. And that's cool. But so when the guy gets kidnapped, when Eric gets kidnapped, who do they send? Do they send like a crack team, like the best warriors? Like, who do they send? They decide, let's send the future of our nations off to certain danger and very possibly death, right? And it's just sort of weird that they would just do this, and there's no argument about it. Like, they're going to argue about whether they get married, and Sorsha's going to force her daughter to get married to this guy, even though she doesn't want to. But then Kit is like, hey, I think I'm going to go after him. And everybody goes, sounds like a great idea. And I'm sitting there going, this is the future, and the other prince goes too. So the future of 2 kingdoms are going to go on this quest of like there are only like 4, 5, 6 people, and you're just going to send them across this barrier that they have to, do to protect them from evil and all of this stuff. It just seems like it's a plot hole. Another plot hole was, so there's this kitchen maid who happens to be the Empress Allura, right? Now grown up, not a baby anymore. And she's in love with Eric, and they kind of set that up in the beginning. They're making out in the beginning and everything. And so she goes after him too. She decides she's going to run off. That's sort of interesting, but she's got a horse. Where did she get the horse? We don't know. How does a kitchen maid just get a horse? Does she steal it? Like, these would have been great character building sort of things to show us, right? That's more for number 3 or 4. And then when she gets to him, they're like, you're just a kitchen maid. You can't fight. Why are you here? This is dangerous. And then she leaves, but where'd the horse go? And then she kind of comes back. It was just confusing. Like, there was no story reason to do a whole bunch of stuff. And then she's trying to cross this ravine and almost falls. And there was just a lot of character choice moments that they didn't earn. You got to earn character choice moments, and they didn't earn them, and they didn't earn good emotional moments. Number 3, there's 2 kidnappings. There's a kidnapping in both episodes. Is there going to be a kidnapping in episode 3? I don't know if I'm going to watch it, but maybe. So Eric gets kidnapped in episode 1. Alora gets kidnapped in episode 3. And I mean 2. There's this whole big, we're going to need her. We need to train her to fight against evil, right? All of this stuff. And all of a sudden, she gets kidnapped too. So again, it's just lazy writing. Like, do something different. Like, don't just keep getting kidnapped. Don't just keep doing the same thing to make the story kind of move forward, right? There's other ways to get people involved, create conflict, give us some stakes, goals, whatever they might be. Number 4, there's a lot of missed opportunities here, okay? And I've already mentioned some of them. There's a lot of missed opportunities in characters making choices, right? Like, where's the argument between Kit and her mom? Her mom going, no, you can't go. We're going to send these crack guys or whatever. I just think they really could have set that up a whole lot better in the first episode, because there's one really amazing character. And so this guy I really like. His name is Booman, or Booman, something like that. And he's like tall, and during one scene in the first episode, it was really kind of cool because the queen doesn't know what to do, and so she goes down into the dungeon and she asks this guy in a cell what to do, or she's kind of talking with him, and I thought that was really, really interesting. And then it turns out this guy is like some super warrior guy or something. So she says, I'll pardon you if you go after if you go along on the quest, right? And of course, that's kind of a missed moment too, because like he just kind of go, okay, cool, all right. And later on, we find out he and Mad Mardigan were friends, and so there's some history there. That was a cool character. They could have really led with that character a whole lot more as kind of a story reason, and maybe Kit like leaves to go. There was a whole lot of possibilities that they could have done besides what they did do, which is kind of boring and didn't make sense. Okay, and then finally, there's a lot of the acting that just falls flat. And I can't really blame the actors a whole lot because the script is just flat in and of itself. So there's a whole lot of just bad dialogue and sort of kind of forced dialogue here and there. And so there's just a lot of stuff that, like I said, just they haven't earned the emotional moments that they want to have, and then they don't have the emotional moments that they could have. And because of that, I guess if you're an actor, maybe it's hard to kind of get the character and get into character. I don't know. This isn't as much an acting YouTube as much as about the writing side of it. But just as a viewer, some of the acting just fell flat. There were great moments, like, Kit has an argument with her brother, and then he gets kidnapped, and she's like, sorry, Mom. I'm like, well, that could have been a little bit more intense, don't you think? Like, she's the warrior, she couldn't save him, and blah, 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 right? A little bit more. So those are the 5 reasons that I really think they just dropped the ball on this Willow sequel that's on Disney Plus. but it doesn't really surprise me because they had a lot of the same issues with the sequels that they did. Like the sequels were just kind of thrown together. Doesn't seem to be a whole big plan, and that's really what this feels like with Willow. It feels like they wanted to do one. They got the characters back, a lot of the actors back, so they decided they would do it, and they just kind of threw a story together. And let me just say, oh, and by the way, one of the guys involved, his last name is Kasdan, who's kind of, and I'm guessing he's related to Lawrence Kasdan, who's like an amazing script writer. And I'm sorry, like that must be nepotism because I don't see the connection. I don't see the quality that I would expect from that name. And that's probably mean to say, but I really thought that there was a lot of good things they could have done with this, and they had some elements that they could have really mixed well, and they just didn't. All right, so that is my review. There's some spoilers in there of the first 2 episodes of Willow. You let me know what you thought about it in the comments. Remember to go into the description and click on that link for a free ebook fantasy fiction, right, that I wrote, so you can check out some of my writing. And remember to subscribe to this channel. All right, so this has been Great Stories Change the World, and I'll see you next time. Peace.